The wisdom of generations of women to help you have more joy every day. The Wisdom Coalition program begins right now.
I have to say it's difficult being a woman. We have so many things that we like about ourselves, but then there's so many things we don't like about ourselves.
I think it has a lot to do with comparison.
You know what? It's really all about how you feel. Not necessarily how you look to others. It's what you feel inside.
The struggle with body image and how we can accept ourselves for who we are.
Welcome to the Wisdom Coalition program. I'm Nancy Wertine.
And I'm Kim Howie. Thanks for joining us.
So, I have a question for you. How do you feel about your body?
You know, most women can rattle off a list of things that they don't like about their bodies. I know I can. But, you know, when we're asked to think of things we do like, sometimes it can be really difficult.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And studies on body image, the way women perceive themselves and think others perceive them, the findings are troubling.
Approximately 91% of women are unhappy with their bodies. 80% of women say images in the media make them feel insecure. One study even found young girls are more afraid of becoming fat than they are of nuclear war, cancer, or losing their parents. The impact of a poor body image can be profound, leading to depression, eating disorders, and substance abuse.
And here's one more. 95% of people with eating disorders are between the ages of 12 and 25. So this subject of body image is a hot topic on college campuses.
It sure is. And, you know, even though we know that the images in the media are retouched, and, you know, there's so many positive campaigns trying to advocate for realistic body types, you know, many young people say that it still exists, this idea of unrealistic body image.
Yeah, it certainly does. And so we've invited a couple of college students to be with us today. Nicole Hadid and Chris Munoz are students at Penn State. Thank you so much for being with us. So in one of your classes, you had to do an assignment that had to do with body image and how it relates to society. So tell us a little bit about what you both learned from the assignment and from the discussions that followed in class. Do you want to begin, Nicole?
So to me, body image is referred to how people view themselves. I think for many people, especially for people in their early teens, body image can be closely linked to self-esteem. So I think teenagers place a lot of value on the feedback that they receive on social media. So for example, likes, comments, followers can make or break their mood or their self-esteem. So I've learned that we should love and appreciate our natural body shape and understand that our appearance says very little about our character and value as a person.
Chris, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I learned a lot of things from the assignment and from the sociology class as a whole, but one of the most important and shocking things that I learned is that 40% of women and young teenage girls consider having plastic surgery, and that's really destructive because the media portrays such an unrealistic image of the ideal self, and it takes away the opportunity for yourself to generate your own ideal self. These versions of people that we aspire to be are so unrealistic that the models and the people that the media portrays as perfect, those people, they can't even be perfect. They have to go through a bunch of computer programmed like artificial like makeup and all this stuff to become their ideal self as well. So is the ideal self that the media portrays even realistic in the first place? Like, we don't even analyze that. We have to just love ourselves for who we are.
That's such a great point. And how about your friends? You know, what do you see as the overall attitude about body image among your friends?
I mean, I think my friends all feel the same way. I mean, I was going to say what also shocked me was that in an American survey that I read, it was saying how 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being overweight and have dieted at least once. So that was surprising to me because I don't think that 10-year-olds should be worried about their weight because they're only 10, so I don't think that they should worry. And also that I think it was 53% of teenage girls are or think of dieting. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think that any teens or young girls should be worrying about that. But
You know, one of the other comments from class that your professor gave us was that one of the students said that unrealistic expectations of the female body affect both men and women. What's your reaction to that? In what way do those, as a man, you know, And what the, I guess, discussion was that, you know, women aspire to look like these images and men want women who look like that image. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like it affects men and women respectively, but I feel like it affects more women than men because women are more seen as like figures and like symbols and objects rather than men. You never really see men in the media like with absurdly like over sexualized, like, except if it's like obviously like an underwear commercial or something like that. But other than that, men are just seen as men. They're just seen as masculine and stuff like that. And still it pushes men to be more masculine and to like try to like avoid being themselves, but I feel like men are a lot more easily accepted than women.
All right, well, thank you so much to both of you. We'll be speaking with you again later in the show.
And remember, you can go to our website, thewisdomcoalition.com, and join the conversation online.
But first, some more reflections on this topic from our well of wisdom.
Women who are constantly beating themselves up, it gets exhausting. You're putting so much energy on focusing on the negative instead of focusing on the positive and moving yourself forward.
I've learned that it's a whole lot different for men than women. You know, that it just amazes me how much people have to say about female bodies.
Welcome back. You know, we found so many frightening statistics when we were doing research for this show.
Yeah, we sure did. So let's continue our discussion now with our next guest. She is Jennifer Parker, Associate Professor of Sociology from Penn State. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and the students.
Yeah, and we just spoke to a couple of your students who are so smart and impressive. And, you know, you do an assignment with them about body image, as we spoke to them about. So why do you think that's an important topic of discussion for these young people to be having with you?
Well, first of all, sociology is interested in the individual experience and how that experience is connected to social patterns and outside influences. So body image, of course, is a natural subject in sociology because there are so many external factors that are influencing how we feel about ourselves, about our bodies.
Yeah, that's so important, so important. And you know, one of your students said that today's rituals tend to reinforce the current trends. You know, mentioning things like senior photos, capturing the unreal you. Why is it, do you think, that this message is so damaging?
There are many reasons why it's damaging, and I think over the years it's become actually worse. I recently read a statistic that said that an adolescent today, in each day, she's exposed to the same number of images about her body that her mother would have seen throughout her whole adolescence. So the problem has become much more severe, and it's difficult to escape.
You know, you had sent us a number of comments that the students wrote, which were so interesting and so thought-provoking. And as we you know, are discussing this, I would think that for today's generation, this topic of body image is more difficult for them. They have so much more comparison, right? They're looking on Facebook and that kind of a thing. So is there a bit of a personal passion here on your part to bring up this subject in your class?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that body image is so primary to us today, especially for females. And to be able to link our experience to these larger factors, to understand that it's not just us as individuals, but there are so many outside influences that are impacting on how we feel. In our class, we try to connect the dots. We try to examine this as a social problem, not necessarily as an individual problem. Of course, there are many things we can do as individuals, but we have to understand this as a larger sociological, social phenomenon.
Well, and you know, studies show that we actually make personal and professional decisions based on how we feel about our bodies. Do you agree with that?
I think we do, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I would think building that confidence, you know, is so important in your students as an educator, right?
Absolutely.
Before they go out into the professional world.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the other comments that I wanted to talk about that the students said is, one student said that body image is a full-time job. Right? That you need to be manager of your shape. Every part of a female's body is under scrutiny and judged. Tell us a little bit about that discussion.
Yeah, that was interesting, and of course it affects females much more than males. That with the attempt to live up to the unrealistic images that are in front of us every day, we spend enormous amounts of time on our bodies, whether it be shopping, the amount of time we spend getting ready in the morning, and even sort of thinking about how we look.
Well, thank you so much. It's so important to have this discussion for young people to try to build their confidence. As an educator, I'm sure that's important to you before they get out into the professional world. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take a quick break, and the students will join us once again as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But first, some more reflections on this topic from our Well of Wisdom.
It's more important that you present yourself the way you're comfortable presenting yourself, and that makes you beautiful.
It's all in the mind. It doesn't matter how pretty you are. It doesn't matter that people are looking at you and thinking, I want what you have. It's what you think of yourself.
Welcome back. Women say that they're under such pressure to look like the ideal body image, but really it's impossible to do that. And if we all did, it would sort of be boring, wouldn't it? Because we'd all look the same.
Absolutely. Being different is what makes life interesting.
It sure is. Yeah. So let's continue our discussion now with Jennifer Parker and her two students. Thank you so much for joining us once again. There's a few things that I read in our research about this show. For those who study society, they say some of the things that would help with difficult body images are increasing body confidence education, which is kind of what you're doing, driving meaningful conversations around the pressure that women and girls face, and also advocating for change in how females and their appearance are talked about and portrayed in the media. So are those realistic goals?
Absolutely. There's a movement called body activism. And body activism promotes, first and foremost, the acknowledgement and acceptance of body diversity in our society. The students talked a little bit about social media and how social media can be a vehicle for unrealistic body images, the kinds of images that we're trying to fight against. But social media can be a very powerful tool for connecting with each other and promoting the kinds of values that we think should be in our society. There's a recent statistic that I just learned about that shows that the more we're exposed to body diversity, the more we hold it up as an ideal. In other words, the more we're exposed to, the more we yearn for. And so the more we promote body diversity, the better off we are.
Well, I love that movement. That sounds really wonderful. But, this whole idea of body image, don't you think that it's really about self-love? Loving ourselves the way we are and not feeling like we have to change. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that body image, I feel like that concept that the media portrays, I feel like in order to love ourselves, we have to throw away the idea that media has that defines beauty, because those are just unrealistic expectations. And in order to love yourself, I think that you got to throw that away, because you're never going to get to that level. Not even the people that are at that level can get to that level. It's impossible. I feel like we got to throw away the mirror and just accept ourselves for who we are.
In doing this assignment, would you say that either one of you have changed anything in your lives going forward? Either when you hear people saying something like, if you hear some of your friends putting themselves down, I'm so fat, or whatever they're going to say. Have you changed anything? This self-awareness of this subject, has that made you change anything, either in your own lives or in the way that you react to other people? And either one of you can answer.
Yeah, this assignment definitely changed how I think about myself and others, but it really changed how I talk to others regarding body image. Because I know a lot of my friends, they think they're fat and they think they're this and they're that and they're that, but none of that's true. That's just because they compare themselves to other things. All those things that they say are completely unrealistic. So I kind of try to open up the people that I know, the people that I'm close to and stuff, and even the people that I'm not close to, because it's really not a good thing to have in your mind. It's a bad mindset, it's a negative, you know what I mean? And as a whole, as a community, I feel like we all have to just try to have a more positive mindset towards ourselves and others around us.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Nicole?
I was going to say, I agree that I think a lot of us compare ourselves to what we see on social media, which kind of, we tell ourselves, we're fat, we're not pretty enough. And I do blame the media for that. So I do try to give them as much advice as I learned in this class. So everything that I learned in this class, I kind of tell them all about it.
That's great. Well, and I think that what is also important is recognizing that so many of the things that we see in social media are actually photos that are taken with filters, right?
Absolutely.
And really just making sure people are aware of that it is unrealistic.
Absolutely. And I think Nicole said she doesn't blame herself, she blames the media. And I think that's a first step, that we have to realize it. It's not our fault for not being able to live up to these unrealistic expectations. And we have to start externalizing this experience and placing accountability where it belongs.
But you know what? We all do it. You know, I have daughters, and I know there's like I don't even understand it, but I know there's filters you can put on before you post on social media, right, to make you look thinner or give you more makeup. You know? So it kind of goes both ways, right? If we want to accept ourselves and each other, then we sort of have to put our own selves out there, don't you think? Right. Sort of have to loosen up if we are trying to be so perfect, we can't expect everybody else to be.
That's very true.
Imperfect or perfect.
I think I recently read that 63% of selfies are Photoshop, not photoshopped, but they are, that we now have the software to change our own selfies. So that raises an interesting question about, well, we have to do this ourselves, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I think this just raising awareness and talking about it is fantastic. So kudos to you for doing this in your class.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you to both of you for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back in just a moment.
If we can take that negative talk in our head and make it positive talk, then we have so much more available to us to live our lives happy and not be focused on body hating.
I think today, acceptance and inclusion is really the way to go.
Welcome back. You know, lots of women like to change up their style from time to time. They say it gives them a little more confidence, and style experts agree.
Absolutely. And Caitlin Quickney, owner of Rooted Salon in Allentown, is here with us today, and she's going to help us change our look up a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, what kinds of things do you do to help women change the way their style is?
On a daily basis, we help women go from light to dark, from red to blonde, from short to long. We are constantly trying to find innovative ways of changing their looks and kind of making them feel updated, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit more stylish. So we've even taken young kids from their natural hair color to a vibrant purple.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So as Kim said, you're going to change up our look a little bit, so we can't wait to see what you're going to do, and we'll show you in just a moment. Okay, so here we are with our new looks. So tell us a little bit about what you did for each of us, and it was so quick, just 5 minutes for a quick change. What did you do?
So with Kim, I decided to pull her hair up off of her face and showcase her beautiful facial structure. And it was so simple because you can turn your daytime look easily into night by just pulling the hair back. If we were in the salon, I could have...
You could have focused on, doing something a little more elaborate, I would think, if you had more time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and with me, I have this short hair. When sometimes it feels like I can't do a whole lot with it, but you sure made it look different, right?
Exactly. So I just put a little paste in, gave you more volume, kind of accentuated your asymmetrical haircut, and I think it just changes it.
Yeah, and with color, I know you went from blonde to red, which is so beautiful. Is there anything we need to be careful about when we're changing the color of our hair, especially when we're lightening it?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to remember color is a chemical service, so you need to make sure that your stylist knows what they're doing, and your hair is only hair, so it can only take so many processes. So we recommend that you do maybe multiple sessions if you're seeking a lighter hair color. just to ensure the integrity of your hair.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And you deal with women all the time, obviously, and it must make them feel great when they come
Absolutely.
in and you make these beautiful hairdos and that kind of thing. What do you think that we as women get out of it when we experiment a little bit with our look and change it up sometimes?
I think most women feel updated. I think they feel revived and fresh about their new look, and I think it just could make them feel younger in certain cases. It just uplifts them and gives them that boost of confidence.
Yeah, speaking about the age, are there anything, restrictions or anything we should be thinking about as we get older, when we care for our hair?
I think just choosing products that are age appropriate, that are treating the signs of aging hair, something that's restorative, something that's color protectant. But as far as color, just talk to your stylist and make sure they can pick out the right hair color or style for your face shape and color.
What about as we age too? Is there anything we should stay away from as far as like styles? I think sometimes we think, oh, we shouldn't be really long when we're a certain age and that kind of thing.
Yes, and that can be true. I think it varies for each client, but I think as long as your hair looks healthy and has movement and volume and texture, I think that's what we're attracted to in hair, instead of just hair that hangs straight down. So I think that's most important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the fun tips and
absolutely.
doing our hair.
Yes,
over.
thank you for having me.
It was wonderful. Go out and spread some joy today.